Hey, and welcome to the next lesson in Module 1 of the program. Now that we've done the welcome and the introduction of it and everything like that, now we're going to start getting into the meat of the program. But one of the key things that we need to remember to do is set ourselves up for success. I'm going to spend the next couple of modules just helping you to get yourself ready to start consuming and using the information you're about to receive. So let's get started with that. So, when we want to set ourselves up for success, there's a couple of things we want to remember. And I alluded to it in the previous video. In every module, we're going to be talking about strategies, we're going to be talking about habits, and we're going to be talking about mindset. And it's the same when we're just getting ourselves ready to learn, getting ourselves ready to take in new information. So, we want to spend the next few lessons, as I said, looking at that. So in the next lesson, we're going to be talking about a toolkit. In the lesson after that, I'm going to be talking more about mindset, things like procrastination and goal setting 101. But for now, in this particular lesson, I want to talk about just making clear some definitions. So the term solopreneur is often used by people who don't even know what it is, and people will often use the term entrepreneur when they're actually talking about solopreneurs. So there is a very specific definition and a very specific way of thinking about the differences between entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. So let's go over that. One of the key things to remember is they're both kind of buzzwords. And but they do have differences. So let's look first at the difference, what we mean when we're talking about an entrepreneur, the personality style, the behaviors of somebody who is truly an entrepreneur, not just somebody who calls themselves an entrepreneur, but somebody who truly is an entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur is somebody who builds businesses, usually more than one, and they're actually passionate about building businesses. That's what makes them get up in the morning. Is their whole thing is, I'm passionate about building a business. Many entrepreneurs I know knew nothing about the industry that they started building a business in, whether it's because they bought a business or whatever. They didn't actually know the industry itself. Their passion was in building the business. So they spend their time working on the business, meaning they are the ones that are developing the culture, the systems, the creating the ideas for the future. That's where they spend their time. Usually an entrepreneur is also creating that business to create jobs. Now, it could be 5 jobs, or it could be 5,000 jobs, or it could be 50,000 jobs. You look at things like Google and Apple and Microsoft and all that sort of stuff. There's tens of thousands of people who either are working in those companies now or have over the years. So that's another passion for an entrepreneur, is creating employment, creating jobs. But we're going to come back to that in a minute. I'll tell you why they like to create jobs. But anyway, and another key thing about entrepreneurs that a lot of people don't think about is their tolerance to taking high risks. They're the ones that will go and get the joint ventures and the capital investments, and potentially, put a huge mortgage on their home. Those are the people who will really, the risk doesn't really bother them. And I want you to remember that one, because we're going to come back to it in a second. So let's talk about solopreneurs now. How are they different? And these differences are important. And one of the reasons why I clearly identify myself as a solopreneur, I may have some entrepreneurial tendencies, but I am a solopreneur. And I'm a solopreneur because I want to build a personal lifestyle. I don't want to build a massive company. I want to build days in which I'm enjoying the work that I'm doing, and it's just about whether or not I get to take an afternoon off. It's not about building this big company. And I also work to serve other people. My passion is service. It's not in building a business. In fact, until I was many years into running my business, I would really push away the things that had to do with working on the business, the things that had to do with building the business. I just wanted to work in the business. I just wanted to do the stuff that I thought I was good at and, learn how to sell. Those are the two things I thought I needed to do in order to run a successful business. It wasn't until a few years into the business that I realized that I also need to work on the business. But my passion is working in the business. And I haven't created any jobs in the work that I do in the business that I run. A few solopreneurs that I know they have employees, but their mandate isn't to create jobs. It doesn't fire them up. They probably have contractors. I've always had some degree of contractor, whether it's a virtual assistant or an IT person that I pay on contract, things like that. But I don't have employees. And most solopreneurs don't have a really high tolerance to risk. And this is the part, I said a moment ago that this is a really important part. And one of the key differences between an entrepreneur and a solopreneur. That is why when you read a book or hear information from people who are clearly entrepreneurs, they are giving advice from this place of high risk tolerance. Many solopreneurs won't mortgage their home. They won't risk everything on the business that they run. Their passion is service. So we're talking about an individual who's, say, an accountant and wants to work from home and just he or she is working from home to build a lifestyle for their family so that they can go to the school events or, take the kids to soccer or whatever it is. Or, say on a Friday afternoon, actually, I don't want to work, so, we're going to go camping a little bit early or something along those lines. And they won't risk everything for the business. Other things they might risk, they might take risks in other parts of their life, but not necessarily in the business. Key difference between an entrepreneur and a solopreneur is risk tolerance. The other key difference that I mentioned is where's the passion lie? The passion for an entrepreneur lies in building that business so they can sell it. I am building my business so I can sell it too, but my passion is serving and working in my business. So that is why some solopreneurs really struggle with this idea of systems and why I built this program specifically for the solopreneurs who, maybe just want to work in their business and need the simplest of systems to move themselves forward. Key difference between the two. And another key difference between the two is an entrepreneur delegates and a solopreneur tends to do it all or almost all of it. Entrepreneurs love to have staff and create jobs because they need people to do the work for them while they're working on culture and they're working on systems and they're working on building and driving the business and creating the relationships for the joint ventures and all that sort of stuff. Whereas a solopreneur tends to do it all. Every single bit of it. So, or 99% of it. So that's a key difference as well. And I tend to call myself an accidental solopreneur. A lot of people don't like that term, but I didn't start my career thinking I was going to run a business. You always have that little thing in the back of your head that's like, oh, cool, it'd be really nice to run my business. But I didn't have a career that was taking me there. I worked for many years in law firms and administrative management, and that's where I saw my career. Then as I got a little bit older, mid-30s, I thought to myself, oh, maybe it'd be kind of cool to have, that personal lifestyle and have a business so that I can take Friday afternoons off if that's what I want to do. But I was still very much focused on building my career. Then I was laid off one day. And I was kind of faced with this choice, which became almost no choice, but there was still a choice. And it was either go and try and find a job in a very difficult working environment. There were not a lot of jobs around. Or turn my attention from doing that, from typing up resumes, to going out and starting my business. Clearly, I started my business. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And I soon found out that it was pretty tricky to run a business, especially on my own. That challenge and difficulty created a lot of noise in my head. So what I had, when I had started with optimism became confidence that went up and down, and cash flow that went up and down. And as the cash flow went up and down, the confidence went up and down. And as the confidence went up and down, the cash flow went up and down, and so on and so forth. It was only when I started focusing time and attention every week, every month on building my systems, working on the business like an entrepreneur does, spending part of my time working on the business at the same time I was working in the business and generating revenue. It was only when I did that that I started to have more consistent confidence, more consistent cash flow. It was only then that the clients started coming all by themselves. And that's what I want for you to carry with you into this program. We're going to go more into it in the next couple of modules, this idea of being able to split your time between working on your business, which isn't revenue generating in and of itself, rather than working in your business, which is revenue generating. That working in your business is when you're actually doing the thing that you love to do to serve your clients, to help them create their solutions. So in the next couple of modules, we'll look at how do you set yourself up for that, so that you can really take from this program the information, the resources, and the environment to help you build the systems that will market, sell, and grow your business into the future, so that you've got consistent cash flow, consistent confidence, and that you're able to fulfill your passions in your business and in your life. So let's keep going.